Hello everybody, welcome back to another video for the day. Now we're going back into r/neckbeardstories because you guys seem to absolutely like those storytime format series, and if you would like to see even more of them, be sure to hit the like button and comment down below what you would want to see me covering. Alrighty, let's get right into that content, let's go. Our first story comes to us from username rMurgo. I'm asexual, but the legbeard doesn't care. I'm relatively new to Reddit, so I didn't know if this story goes in r/Tales of Neckbeard or here, so forgive me if I'm posting in the wrong subreddit. I'm an 18-year-old guy born in Italy, sorry for my eventually broken English, and still living in it, and 3 years ago, I ran into a legbeard without knowing what a legbeard was. I was attending high school, and I decided to sign up to an afternoon class with my friend S to get an English certificate. There I met the legbeard G. G wasn't unattractive, long brown hair, dark brown eyes, a decent body, and a, let's say, lively personality. She was extremely into Harry Potter, anime, and manga. At first, I didn't notice her since she was in the corner of the class, but my friend kept saying that a girl kept looking at me rather than the blackboard, but I just ignored her, hoping that she will eventually stop. She didn't. The following lesson, the professor gave us a task to do with 4 classmates, so me and my friend waited other 2 people to join us, and would you look at that, the legbeard and her almost invisible friend immediately came to us. I knew that she was the girl that the other lessons kept staring at me, but I didn't mind having her in my team, so we accepted to work with them. Big freaking mistake. From that moment, she kept hugging me tightly to her chest, making me extremely uncomfortable, and when I told her to stop, she kept saying, "Why, don't tell me you're that shy," or "Oh, come on, just a few more seconds." I was, and kinda still am, extremely shy and borderline asexual, so for me, those situations were extremely uncomfortable and embarrassing, and still, she didn't care and kept doing what she wanted. I endured her behavior because I didn't want to make a scene or draw the attentions towards me. So she kept taking advantage of me and sometimes touching me in my private areas. I think it can be classified as harassment. She also followed me everywhere, even outside school, and bombarded my phone with messages. This behavior kept going until one day when the thing she did broke the camel's back. Me, the legbeard, and her friend were at a table in the backyard with nobody else eating the lunch waiting for class to start. We were talking about random stuff when she suddenly licked my neck, but that's not all. When I turned my face towards her to ask her what the frick she was doing, she kissed me on the lips in front of her friend. "What the frick are you doing? Didn't you like it?" "Of course not, it wasn't consensual, but I did it because I love you." "I don't, and surely I won't grow up loving you now." At this point, I started packing my stuff to leave, and she hugs my arm tightly to her chest. "Stop now, please, wait a minute." S came in the backyard to eat lunch with me and discovered what she had just did. "Back off, G, I'm calling the principal." At this point, some people started to come to the backyard to see what the fuss was about, so she backed off and called her mother to pick her up from school early. She tried to get back at me, making one last attempt to convince me to mess with her, but I blocked her in every social media, so for the rest of the year, she avoided me, and once the year ended, she changed schools. Sorry for the long story and the heavy topic, but I never spoke with anyone of this experience. I know that Reddit isn't probably the best place to confess terrible experiences, but the anonymity helped me write this story. Thank you. Can't we all just agree not to do anything with other people's bodies unless they're up for it? Like, come on, how hard is that for some people to understand? Hope you're doing better, and hope things get better after, you know, legbeard left. Our next story comes to us from username Ducky46321. Game store creep grabs my butt. Hi, I have never posted to Reddit before, so I'm sorry for any errors I make. I have a younger sister who loves D&D. She and her friends have been playing it over Zoom during quarantine. She also has recently hurt her foot and has to use crutches, and as a result, can't do a lot in terms of moving around, which has been getting her down. So in an attempt to cheer her up, I went to her favorite game store to get her some new dice to surprise her. I don't know anything about D&D, but I do know what kind of dice I'm looking for. I walk into the store and am almost immediately stared at by customers and some of the employees. I guess I don't look like I belong in a game store. I'm 17, around 5'5", with green eyes and blonde hair that goes down to my waist. I was wearing my running shorts and a tank top. I am pretty fit from the hours of taekwondo and running that I do. A lot of my friends say that I look like a Barbie doll. I personally don't think so, but despite all of this, I am secretly a huge nerd. I love Star Wars, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Star Trek, anything that has to do with the Avengers, and have watched a few animes. I ignore the looks and go over to the dice and am overwhelmed by the choices. One of the employees helps me find one that I was looking for and goes back to the register. Now, my logic when choosing the dice were to find the prettiest ones. I know it's shallow, but I am doing my best. I suddenly felt something looming over me. I turn around and see this specimen of a human. He looked to be in his 20s, was like 6 feet tall, and probably about 350 pounds. He had a greasy ponytail that was longer than mine, which is saying something. His skin was pale and looked like it had never seen the sun, and had a patchy beard that covered his neck. He had on an anime shirt, shorts, and a trench coat. It was at least 95 degrees that day, so I don't know why he chose to wear the coat. I shrink back, but try to be nice. This is the conversation that went down, M being me, and NB is Neckbeard. I'm so sorry, am I in your way? No, I was just admiring the view, m'lady. You don't need to move. He looks at my chest. I'm a pretty busted girl, and I'm self-conscious about it, so I cross my arms over my chest. I am an overly nice person, so I laugh and try to slip away as politely as possible, but he moves and blocks me. I see you're looking at dice. Do you partake in role-playing? No, I'm actually getting these for my sister. She loves playing D&D. Oh, well, those are good for amateur players. Let me show you the superior dice. He grabs my hand and takes the dice. I flinch and try to pull my hand away. I really don't like being touched because of past trauma. He manages to pry the dice out of my hand while I stand there shrinking into myself, trying to fight off the beginning stages of a panic attack. He grabs a container of dice off the shelf and hands it to me. I look at the dice and smile at the packaging that had a funny little cartoon T-Rex wearing a chef's hat next to the label that was a pun about pizza. NB takes this as permission to go behind me and guides me further into the store and to show me more D&D stuff out of view of the front counter with the employees. The entire time, I'm trying to walk away without causing a scene, but then he grabs my waist and that makes me start to panic again. I push him away and ask him not to touch me and tell him that I have what I need so I can leave. He laughs and says that he would be more than willing to pay for the dice in exchange for my Instagram. His hand slides down and cups my butt. I shove him and book it to the front of the store to pay for the dice. I was so freaked out that I didn't say anything to the employee. I just said hi, thank you, took the dice, and left. The employee did ask me if I was okay. I told him that I was fine because I just wanted to get out of there. Before I walked out, NB yelled to me, "I hope those dice serve you favorably." The employee gives him a weird look and mouths, "What the heck?" to himself. I speed walk to my car, locking the door and driving to a store about a mile away, making sure no one followed me. I parked and calmed myself down. I had been to that game store several times before for other board games and had never experienced something like that there. I know that I could have told the employee what happened, but to be honest, my brain wasn't working and was just telling me to get out of there as soon as possible. When I got home, I had calmed down and processed what happened. My sister was overjoyed about the dice and immediately was telling her friends about them. I did tell my mom and dad about what happened, but left out the fact that he touched me. My mother and father were the nicest people in the world, and they know that I hate being touched without permission, and if I had told them these details, my mom would have been out for blood. They joke that NB had probably never seen or talked to a girl before and wasn't used to seeing someone breathe through their nose. My mom also said that if I had punched him, she would have been cheering me on, and I crack up. Not the craziest story, but I thought it was worth sharing. I have a few other stories if anyone wants to hear them. Honestly, I hope you're doing okay, and I hope that that experience doesn't put you out of going to comic book stores in general. Wouldn't be surprised if it does, honestly, but I hope you're doing better, and I hope that you feel better. Our last story comes to us from username Smolft. High School Neckbeard takes online roleplay too far. I would like to apologize for any formatting errors. I don't post on Reddit that much, but after all the joy this subreddit has given me, I thought it was time to give it back and share my own Neckbeard story about a very unique classmate I had. We'll call him Frederick. Frederick is an enigma, and my time in high school with him was unforgettable. To explain his appearance is simple enough. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, on the chubbier side, with small glasses. He constantly wore stainless steel rings with leering demonic faces on them, him, which left green stains on his porcelain skin. Though he was only a teenager, his jet black hair was already turning white in spots along with a healthy smattering of dandruff. He lumbered awkwardly as if he was not yet used to his great stature, and his oversized clothes smelled of cigarettes despite the fact that he didn't smoke. The neckbeard itself was only symbolic, as all he managed to grow were a few translucent hairs on his chin. I believe the most efficient way to describe Frederick any further is just to list some of his weirder behaviors. To my knowledge, he drank somewhere around 2 liters of Diet Pepsi per day. He would keep multiple six-packs at room temperature in his locker. Ew, Jesus, dude, come on, cool them. He would also eat upwards of 4 bowls of instant ramen for lunch per day. I think the most I saw him consume in one sitting was 6, with the exception of the one time he was spotted eating a massive turkey leg. He was really into Phoenix Wright and wanted to be a lawyer despite knowing a little to nothing about the law, and would shout "objection" at us even when he didn't actually have any objections. He played D&D with my friends and I, and despite being on his phone most of the time, he got very upset when his healer didn't do as much damage as the offensive classes. He refused to play anything else because he didn't know how to make a character and was not interested in learning. While in this D&D group, he stole dice constantly, both from stores and his fellow players. He wasn't exactly a master thief and would eventually give them back, but never admitted to stealing them in the first place. He clearly believed he was a skilled combatant and would frequently perform Tai Chi style warm-up moves and then beckon his would-be opponents. No one ever took him up on it. His knowledge of geography was severely lacking. He thought South America was Europe and that France was a country in Paris.
So he's an idiot.
He once wore a shirt with a suspicious white stain. It could have been detergent, but his overreaction when we jokingly asked if it was not suggested otherwise. He was really into Yu-Gi-Oh! And still plays in tournaments. I'm told he did not believe in the heart of the cards and wasn't very good. Yeah, you know, never blame yourself. If you suck, it's because you don't believe in the heart of the cards. Never blame yourself, it's always someone else. But from my perspective, the key to understanding Frederick was through my friend Alan. It is debatable between neckbeard scholars, but it is my belief that Frederick truly wanted to be Alan. When they first met in the 8th grade, Frederick simply wished to tease and call him various slurs, which Alan didn't mind, but as time went on, the infatuation, the obsession grew. If we view Frederick's behaviors as a warped reflection of Alan's, the pieces start to fall into place. But why Alan? I don't know if Frederick could tell you. You have to understand, Alan was hardly the high school quarterback the whole school fawned over, or the super popular kid everyone knew. He's very smart and definitely popular among his friends, but he's pretty much just on the nerdier side of average. Any outsider would certainly see him as normal. Perhaps it was that normalcy that Frederick was searching for, that ability to blend into the crowd, but being Frederick, he simply couldn't help himself. Alan had ramen for lunch every day, so Frederick had 3. Alan liked Yu-Gi-Oh!, so Frederick started playing in tournaments. Alan played D&D, so Frederick had to do as well, even if he really didn't care for it. This was strange and often frustrating for Alan, but things got even more tense when Alan got a girlfriend. Emily was Frederick's chosen milady. Perhaps he truly loved her despite having little in common, but I believe it was the fact that she was with Alan which drew him to her. When she turned him down, he tried to woo a few other girls with gifts of junk food, but he always seemed to come back to Emily. Now that we have sufficiently introduced what Frederick is like as a person, we can get into the event that shook 2 friends groups to the core, and even got school administration involved, the Lucy saga. Around grade 11 or 12, Frederick started getting really into online role-playing over Discord. Unlike D&D, this role-playing allowed for powerful, moody anime characters and heavy overtones of eroticism. My friend and I thought it was funny, and he was more than happy to let us sit in while he feverishly typed overdramatic plot arcs on the library computers. It quickly became clear that there was another level of role-playing at play, however. Unbeknownst to the other members of his online circle, Frederick had become Lucy, a first-year accounting student who enjoyed pretending to be an anime girl online with her fellow weebs. When questioned, Frederick denied being Lucy, even though we could clearly see him typing out her messages. To combat this, Frederick introduced Lucy's cousin, Big Freddy, who he would type for when we were watching him, except we would see him logging in and out to talk to himself as Lucy. Eyebrows were raised even further when we realized Lucy was in a relationship with a young man named Todd. Obviously, this was kind of a lame thing to do to someone, but what got to me was the fact that Frederick wouldn't admit to those who knew him in real life that he was catfishing. For some reason, he felt the desire to rope my friends and I into this scheme. This could not stand. Frederick had slipped up once, and at this point I suspect he truly believed that Lucy existed. He had catfished even himself, and so one day at the library computers he saw no problem showing me a picture of her in cosplay. When I got home that day, I sent a message to Lucy. My other friends had tried to oust her as a fake, but they never had my patience. If I could get my hands on that picture he'd shown me, I could reverse Google image search it, and I could finally prove what I already knew. I tried asking directly, but was met with a strange excuse about a missing phone. I had to find the picture myself, but first I dug a little. For some reason, Lucy felt the need to add in even more details. She insisted the DeviantArt account the photo belonged to was rarely used, and mentioned that one of the members of the photo had died. Upon finding the picture on the first page of Google Images, I could confirm that not only were both of these statements false, but the actual model in the photos was Italian. Lucy was supposed to be Canadian. However, I needed this case to be airtight. Lucy could always deny the picture, so I sent off a copy of the image to Todd, Lucy's digital lover. "Is this Lucy?" I asked. After applying the appropriate tact, of course, he began typing and then paused. "I think so. She's hard to recognize in cosplay," he said. Then he sent me a series of photos Frederick hadn't dared to show me because I would have recognized them in an instant as Sandra, sister of his true love, Emily. My friends and I broke the news to Todd via Discord message, and though we asked that he keep our identities under wraps, it was clear that Frederick knew when we saw him in school the next day. He did not attend class or speak to anyone. His day was spent on the library computers trying to make amends while staring daggers at us whenever we crossed his path. So cold was his demeanor that not even his teachers dared approach or ask him what he was doing. His online friends eventually took him back, though things were never the same between him and Todd. After an awkward conversation which involved several poor attempts at flirting, Todd was able to tell Sandra how her picture was being used. She contacted the school and Frederick was suspended for 2 weeks. There are many Frederick stories worth remembering, but nothing compares to the twists and turns of the Lucy saga. It's been a while since anyone has heard from him, but the last time we met, Frederick seemed in high spirits. He got a hopefully real online girlfriend, works at Subway, and may or may not smoke a lot of weed. If you're out there, I wish you the best. None of us were our best selves in high school after all. TLDR, Neckbeard I went to high school with catfishes some innocent weed with pictures of his milady's sister. And with that, that is going to have to be it with the video. If you would like to be absolutely amazing and supportive, be sure to slam the like button, especially if you want to see more of these storytime format videos. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.